We'll do it live. It.
I don't know if you've noticed these YouTube pranksters. I've been watching YouTube pranks since the beginning. It's gone through many phases. It went through a phase where they're off stage, and you could tell if you're into this kind of stuff. Now it's at a stage of just almost criminal. I mean, it's everyone just trying to do these cringy moments that are just dangerous. And
there was that kid in England who was like home invading people, essentially.
Oh, I never saw that.
Yeah.
But I've noticed. Go ahead.
But there's Johnny Somali in Japan who was running around making trouble and finally got himself arrested.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, yeah. It's dangerous because if I'm going to the store, I'm not going out to be content for your fucking prank videos. You know what I mean? Like, legal? Yeah. Is it legal for you to film me because I'm in a Walmart or a Walgreens? Yes, it is legal. But at the same time, I'm not looking to be your content. You know. And that's what people are doing. They're using people that are just minding their own business and getting them riled up for content.
In the mall video you were talking about, the guy in the mall, he was legitimately invading that guy's space and putting his phone right up to the guy's head. Like, I'm sorry, but you picked the wrong person to do that to, and they're going to kick the crap out of you.
Okay, let's describe that scene for anyone who hasn't seen it. So it looked like a food court in a mall.
It was exactly a food court.
So fill in the details, but what I do know is they were trying to say this dude either stole something, I don't know, but they were aggressively showing him a phone, and
the phone was just playing nonsense. He was walking up to the guy, and the phone had a loop of audio on it that made no sense, and he was just screwing with him. That's all it was.
But it was aggressive. I mean, invading personal space. Yeah. It was barking.
He was told to stop, and he wouldn't leave him alone.
Yeah, and this guy, who I believe was an Uber Eats driver picking up food, you could see he was kind of like anyone would be. Who is this guy in my face barking? Like, so he was backing up. Now, he pulls out a gun and just shoots the guy.
No hesitation. Cold as ice. Just, well, you die now. Bang.
I mean, it was about 5 feet, would you say?
They were very close when he shot.
Yeah. He shot him mid-range somewhere in the chest. Didn't die. The kid didn't die. But
kid's alive.
Yeah. But I was very disappointed. Like, this is my Nasred martial law view, is this guy should not have been charged. This guy should have been let go scot-free. He shouldn't have had to go and put on an orange jumpsuit. What do you think?
I disagree, only because while this was an obnoxious situation and while the guy was very aggressive, at no time did he do anything that actually was imminently threatening this man's life.
We don't know that, though.
Well, the thing is, like,
just the body mechanic, you don't know that.
You don't.
He could have ended up like Ryan Carson.
Yes, but if I walk up to you and I'm holding a phone and I'm putting my phone up by your head, yes, that's aggressive and obnoxious. And if you punched me or slapped me or knocked the phone out of my hand and then kicked my knee out from under me, I would say you're completely justified.
Okay.
But a gun is an off switch for a human being. The second the gun comes into play, it's life or death. And in my opinion, this was not a good shoot because I don't believe that man's life was credibly threatened. Now, yes, was he uncomfortable? Most certainly. But the appropriate thing to do, and I would support this and I would support not charging him, would have been for the gun to come out and him to go, now what do you have to say?
Yeah.
Like, you're not supposed to draw the gun unless you'd be justified in firing it. I think in that situation, you draw the gun and you make the decision, do I need to shoot? Are you still threatening me? Because a guy that continues to advance on you while you have a gun on him probably does mean you harm.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything you just said. And that guy did a one motion where it was just like, wham.
You could tell there was no thought. He was like, I'm going to have to kill somebody else today. I've got things to do.
Like they talk about quarterbacks and how many seconds it takes between this guy had he was number one in that stat. He went from this
there was no
gunshot and 0.2 flat.
It was impressive.
But here's my argument. My counter argument is, had this guy not started the situation, there wouldn't be a situation to begin with. Like this guy's life, now this guy's in jail because this idiot was doing a YouTube prank.
Morally, I don't disagree with you, but legally, carrying a gun is carrying the power of life and death. You are required by the law. You are required by the law to absorb an amount of abuse that you would not be required to absorb if you were unarmed. If you're carrying a gun, you're not allowed to be insulted. You can't get angry at someone and escalate a situation because, let's say, they call your wife a whore. Let's say you have a gun and you're out with your wife, and some stranger's like, your wife's a whore. You can't get offended at that and then escalate the situation. Because, let's say you start going back and forth, you start shouting, it escalates. He then pulls a knife out and you shoot him. Well, you just contributed to that situation, So
I think there should be something to that, what I'm saying, though.
Right.
But the guy was just doing his job, and this situation wouldn't have even arisen.
And that's a powerful argument for lenience. But I don't think the incident rose to the level of imminent grievous bodily harm, which should be the standard for using potentially lethal force. Now, fortunately for everyone, this kid did not die.
That's true.
And I would say the appropriate response would be a slap on the wrist. Like, okay, he's not dead. He's really learned his lesson. You weren't actually in danger of dying, and yet we understand where you're coming from. So I don't know, a couple years probation, something like that. I'd be down with that kind of sentence.
I think that's what he got.
Well, as I understand it, they haven't finished arguing about it yet.
Okay, maybe
he was acquitted of the most serious charge, which was aggravated malicious wounding, and he was convicted on a gun charge, but his lawyer was arguing that was inconsistent with the other acquittal and should be set aside. So in another month, there's going to be another hearing to see if they can set that aside. However, he's not out of the woods yet, because I guarantee you that YouTube guy is going to sue him, because he's going to have a lot of weeks in a hospital bed to think about the fact that there's a bullet in him. And his lawyer will argue that while this guy was obnoxious, shooting him was not justified. So they will sue on those grounds.
Well, if I'm the judge, I'm going back to the beginning. It's the root cause analysis. None of this would have happened. So I would say he should not be able to sue this guy. It's like, let me shoot you because I might be able to, let you to shoot me so I might be able to sue you. It's like suicide,
Well, I agree with you, again, on moral grounds, but our legal system does not support that.
Yeah. Well, you know what, though? Another part of it is, like, 2023 is different from 2000 even. People are crazier, in my opinion. People are just nuts.
We've become simultaneously more sensitive and more aggressive. It's a bad combination.
Phil, I'm not afraid to say where I'm from. I'm from Memphis, Tennessee. And I drive on this loop called the 240 loop and 385. It's just basically a loop around the city of Memphis. There's, so it's the main artery to get to whatever part of the city of Memphis you have to get to. Every day people are shooting each other on this thing.
Wow.
I mean, I can source it. Just look up 240 loop Memphis shootings, and there's probably a good couple a week. People just because they got cut off. Boom, boom. Road rage, just lawlessness. It's crazy. It's absolutely nuts. So the point is, people are more prone to kill you these days than they would beat you up. So, being a little trigger happy or a little bit the holster happy in this day and age, in this year where we are now, is a little bit different than it was,
Well, and you can do everything right and still have your life ruined in court. It's a very dangerous prospect, no matter how you look at it. It's very important you do everything absolutely right so that you have the best possible chance of being acquitted when you inevitably end up going to trial to defend your actions.
Well, isn't the golden rule still you have to say you felt like your life was in danger?
No, actually,
prove that.
I talked about that in a book that I just published. Actually, I published a book called "People Who Carry Tactical Pens Can't Fight and Other Dumb Things People Say About Self-Defense." I know it just rolls off the tongue, but in the book I talk about many dumb things that I've heard people say about self-defense, and over relying on that concept is one of those things. There are people who believe that saying I was in fear for my life is this magic get out of jail free card. And it's really not. It's not enough. There are certain legal thresholds that have to be met for, to meet that reasonable man standard of self-defense. So it's extremely important that you conduct yourself the way a theoretical, reasonable person would, and that you be in imminent danger before you take potentially lethal action.
Yeah.
And there's other concepts that come into play, like parity of force, which is that our legal system generally will allow you to use as much force as being used on you and just a little bit more than that to win.
Mm-hmm.
But anything over that, you could conceivably get into a great deal of trouble.
Yeah. I mean, drawing your gun should be an absolute last resort.